Every paisa which goes out to the government funds is checked against the budget available, and there's never a situation, the system is all IT based, it never allows you to make a payment beyond the budget which is available. If the budget is not available, then you have mechanisms of reappropriations, then you have a mechanism of going to the parliament, taking a supplementary. So the budgetary control expenditure also takes place through the PFMS. Right. Now these are the stakeholders, as I mentioned to you. Whenever any payment takes place, the first trigger is what? The program division, right? The one who runs the scheme. They're the ones who issue a sanction for release of funds. Then what happens, as I said, they push the bill. There's a system called DDO, Drawing and Disbursing Officer in every ministry, in every office where you work, who will prepare a bill, right? Then there's a system of pay and account officer in every organization. It could be called payment officer, somewhere it could be called a finance officer. So he's the one who will check all the payments, right? And then you have the state government, as I mentioned, centrally sponsored scheme. This is all completely integrated. They're the stakeholder. Then the state government, all the centrally sponsored scheme, the implementing agency, the banks I mentioned, external system I mentioned about Darega Soft, right? And then the citizen ultimately. These are all the stakeholders who are all joined together. It's a hub and spoke model. I gave you the figures just now that 37 lakh implementing agencies, all the banks, 662 credited, state treasuries, all that. So this is it. Now, what has the change which the PFMS has brought about? Earlier, it was a demand base. You demand the funds and we release the funds. But now, it's on just-in-time release of funds, right? We see your fund balances. It's not your demand base. I'm going to validate, I'm going to verify how much balance is sitting over. So that has been a major reform which has led to more effective cash management. Credit push, as I said, now it's a debit pull. You demand based on your balances. The third most important thing, you know that when the funds get transferred from central government to state government, it is booked as expenditure. Now I'm just raising a very academic but a very technical issue. Every rupee which is released from central government to state government is booked as expenditure. Is that an expenditure, truly? In centrally sponsored scheme, let's say Amrit, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or Swachh Bharat Mission, or is it except DBT? Is it truly an expenditure? It is not, right? It is a transfer. Technically, it's a transfer. But then the parliament has given the budget to the ministry, so it's an expenditure. So booked actually in the union government expenditure. But in practical terms, it isn't transfer. It goes through the RBI to the state government. So this is what the system does at the PFMS. The real utilization is taking place at the last mile. That's the kind of utilization when they submit the utilization certificates. So this system now has enabled us not only to monitor the expenditure of the schemes at the central government level, but the real expenditure which has taken place at the field level, right? Which then you have the system of utilization certificates and all that. And PFMS has provided numerous reports through MIS and as a decision support system. Now in terms of MIS report, obviously, we give the reports, various reports, I'll come to it at each level, right? At the office support, at the secretary level, director level, the minister level. It gives you the complete, actually, synopsis of what is happening to the funds. Build India, I just mentioned to you. So we have been able to achieve the objective of making all the government financial transactions cashless. This is in overall basically a flow, which I just mentioned to you. That's the way it flows, IFD approval, because there's a system of IFD. They first concur, program you sends a proposal to them. The finance division concur. You'll all actually see that when you start working. This may sound to you a little bit too technical, but I'm sure the day you start working, the day you will be responsible for any scheme or a project, this is all you're going to happen, right? This is all going to happen. Then the e-sanction, DDO payment and all credit to beneficiaries, and then we have a system of mobile alerts and an account. Email. If you give your email, if you get registered, every one of you would have been registered on PFMS. Every vendor registered on PFMS. As I mentioned to you, 145 crore beneficiary IDs. So if you register your email, if you register your mobile number, you'll keep getting alerts as and when the payment. No longer you have to call up and ask, right? This is the kind of just I think overall snapshot, what happens, when a sanction takes place. So these are the ways in which we have made all the reports available to those people who work on the system. There's every detail, every authorized sanction number, bill number, sanction amount, beneficiary account number, amount, to whom it has been paid, what was the IFSC code, what was the credited bank, know your payment. Now, if you want to know about, let's say, how much payment has been made to you, if you're a vendor, you just need to type out your account number by going to pfms.nic.in. Any beneficiary, just type out the account number, and then you will get all the details of all the payments which have been made. Then we also have the system of National Scholarship Portal. We have devised a separate system. I get a call sometimes in the night, even at 10:30, कि मैं student हूँ छतरपुर से और मुझे scholarship नहीं मिली, बताइए मैं क्या करूँ? Because we have given all our numbers. Now, imagine that, as I said, 145 for PID. We have our system help desk, but still people do call up. Because nowadays, they are all very keen to know कि मेरा scholarship payment नहीं हुआ. Then we get in touch with the government department and see कि इस number पे payment क्यों नहीं हुआ है. So, know your payment is now possible. EMP module. See, one of the major lacunas in the project management the government has been that when you monitor a project or a scheme, there are two parameters, financial and physical, right? Financial, I've just explained to you, you can know how much expenditure has been incurred. But then what about the output, the outcomes, the physical progress? Now that used to flow in separately. Let's take example of ICDS midday meal scheme. PFMS can let you know किस डिस्ट्रिक्ट में, किस ब्लॉक में कितना पैसा खर्च हुआ है ICDS मिड डे मील्स पे, आप पता कर सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर आपको ये पता करना है कि कितने बच्चों का इम्यूनाइजेशन हुआ, कितनों को मिड डे मील दिया, वो एक अलग MIS फ्लो करती है, ठीक है. तो when I was in urban development, we did this module where we integrated both the monitoring of the physical and the financial progress. I just mentioned about CPWD, right? CPWD executes the projects, they construct government buildings, they construct roads in the border areas. So पहले क्या होता था, आप फोन करेंगे, बताओ भाई कितना काम हुआ है, तो वो अलग से MIS फ्लो करेगी. So what we did, we integrated the system on PFMS. There's something system called measurement book in any construction project, right? Whenever a project is executed, they will have a detail items की मतलब जैसे ये बिल्डिंग बननी है तो उसमें एक कंपोनेंट होगा AC इंस्टॉलेशन, एक कंपोनेंट होगा वॉल इरेक्शन, एक कंपोनेंट होगा फाउंडेशन, all that, right? All that is entered in contract. So we captured the project detail. And then we also captured the financial releases. So at the click of the button, any project being executed in Ladakh or anywhere, I can find out on real-time basis what has been the financial progress, what has been the physical progress on any parameter. I don't have to call up an executive engineer to find out why project is going slow. I can also then have query mode where I can see those, let's say, list those projects. You know heard about the NIP, National Infrastructure Project Pipeline, right? So we did that, the query mode. Let's say if I list, because see, the lakhs of projects being implemented, infrastructure, all kind of assets being created. So let's say if we make a query that list the projects where the financial progress is 80%, but the physical progress is 20%, right? So it will list all the projects. We have a dashboard, right? You can also go to dashboard and see to it. किस डिपार्टमेंट का कितना एक्सपेंडिचर है, मंथ वाइज है, किस स्कीम में कितना हो रहा है, कितना ट्रांसफर हुआ, FC ग्रांट कितने की किसी स्टेट में. अब आप कहेंगे ये इन्फॉर्मेशन तो क्या है, ये तो अवेलेबल होनी चाहिए, लेकिन अगर आप 5 साल बाद पहले पूछते या 4 साल पहले पूछते तो इसके लिए आपको अलग अलग इन्फॉर्मेशन बुलवानी पड़ती. एनी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, एनीबडी कैन सी दिस डैशबोर्ड बिकॉज वी लिव इन टाइम्स ऑफ transparency. Like I remember Nandan Lilikani, I think once he mentioned that the best disinfectant is sunshine. Why? Because sunshine makes it everything crystal clear. जहाँ सूर्य की रोशनी पड़ती है, सब कुछ साफ साफ नजर आता है. जब सब कुछ साफ साफ नजर आता है, तो obviously फिर accountability भी होगी, performance भी होगा, और delivery भी होगी. But if you keep it under the wraps, if you keep it kind of hidden, then obviously one can always come out but various reasons. So that's the advantage of having it being absolutely transparent. I'll come to this very important concept of SNA. Those people who are from all leader services, once you start your state visits, you'll come to know this is a major reform which the PFMS has done. What we have done basically, early as I mentioned to you, let's say 15 lakh I mentioned to implementing agencies. Earlier, these funds were lying of centrally sponsored scheme across 15 lakh implementing agencies spread all over the country, right? So obviously now how can you track such a large number of agencies account? So what we did a creation of a nodal agency at the state level. Now the implementing agencies open an account with the SNA, but that was a zero balance account. Let me explain the system to you. Earlier the fund used to get transferred from central government to RBI to state treasury to the nodal agency to the district level agency, that's where the track. Now what we have done, the funds don't get transferred. It lies at the state level with the SNA, state nodal agency. Now how does the money reach the implementing agency level? Down the line, they have an account, zero balance account, and their account is tied up with the account of the SNA. So they get draw limits, they get assignment limits, right? So as and when they have to pay the money to a vendor, they draw that money out of the assignment. It's like a draw rights, what you have. So the fund is lying at the SNA level. It's now become very easy for the government of India to track those 4,000 SNAs which have been created, right? Then we have stipulated that you can't have more than 25% of the total annual requirement of budget. So earlier the fund which were disbursed in large number of agencies now is centralized, okay? And then we watch that the moment 25% is exceeded, we don't release more funds. And it also ensures that the implementing agencies always get the funds in time, they can always draw, then they can play around. अब सारी implementing agencies तो एक speed पे नहीं चलती है ना, कोई slow चलती है, कोई fast चलती है, तो then they can actually readjust, the budget allocation between one agency and the other agency. This has actually resulted in just time of release of funds, reduced borrowing, and ultimately the state government also knows what is happening to their share, what is happening to the state share and the central share. So this has been a very major reform.